It's actually happening as multiple NHL insiders have linked the Winnipeg Jets to huge moves ahead of the NHL trade deadline, including Brock Nelson. We're going to break down all this, the implications it has going into the trade deadline, and more later on this episode. Before we get into that, if you're enjoying this content and you want to keep up to date on everything to do around the team, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. It's completely free, and this NHL trade deadline news you're not going to want to miss. But with that, Darius, we got to hop straight into this today, where we know the Jets have been actively looking for the 2C, but multiple insiders have came out today, including Pierre LeBrun, saying the Brock Nelson situation is still in flux. No guarantee that he's going to be traded, but there's a more likely option: Minnesota, Winnipeg, New Jersey, but the biggest one, the Winnipeg Jets. Now, it doesn't stop there. The fourth period, Dave Pagnotta goes in to say, I believe the Jets are willing to present a significant offer that includes a first for Brock Nelson. And finally, but not least, Elliot Freeman notes on TNT that the Jets are in on Brock Nelson. Now, I mean, looking at this is three just big headlines coming out. What's your thoughts on the Jets looking like they're going to land Brock Nelson ahead of this trade deadline?
So just a couple of days ago, the Islanders were unsure if they were going to trade Kyle Palmieri and Brock Nelson, and they have a couple other names that are up for trade right now as well. But then they lost 4-0 to the New York Rangers. And when that happened, Lou Lamoriello had an entire staff meeting, management meeting, and they were trying to understand if they were going to make these moves, if they were going to keep these players and try to make the playoffs or make some moves. I think they've landed on they're going to move these players out. Pajot is another name that's out there too. So I wonder if that's the center the Jets are looking at too, but I actually do believe it's Brock Nelson. His name's been rumored for a long time, and he is a number 2C. This is exactly the guy that the Jets could use there on the second line. 43 points this year in 61 games. He's having a pretty good season. He is a goal scorer. He scores in bunches, which is something that I think the Jets, he can fit right in with the Jets in that way. So it's looking like it is him. Multiple insiders, like you touched off at the top there, Mark, that, multiple insiders are reporting this, that he is directly linked to the Winnipeg Jets. I think at this point, it's just the package. Do the Jets have what the Islanders want? And if they do, I think this trade gets done. But, we've seen the market already this year with Yanni Gourde going yesterday. The market is insane. It's going to be a really big return, I believe. It's probably going to be Barlow, maybe even a first round pick, maybe another prospect. It's going to be a large return for Brock Nelson because the Islanders know, we'd rather keep him and sign him if we're not going to get something that we like and think is a worthy return. So it's going to get pretty crazy, I think, heading into the deadline tomorrow. But one thing's for sure, we know that the Jets probably need, I know a lot of Jets fans think that they can stand pat and kind of go into the playoffs with the team as is because they have been rolling so far this season. But this is a guy that I think if you add to the second line center position with this team, man, it makes them a lot more dangerous heading into the playoffs.
And the biggest thing is, like you said, Brock Nelson is an elite goal scorer, 20 goals this year, 61 games played. He is 6'4", so he's a big body to add to the lineup. And just if you want to pause and go through, he has been consistently scoring 20 goals for this Islanders team. I think this is one of the biggest, and if not the biggest, free agent that can be traded at deadline this year. I know a lot of people say, hey, he has a no movement clause, but we also did get reports saying that with his 16 no trade clause, he said in this case, it feels like Nelson would be willing to go to Winnipeg. Now on the bottom, you can also see Darren Dreger just saying how the Jets need a 2C, and it seems like they're in on Brock Nelson. I mean, there's so much coming around the fact that there's 5 reporters coming out and saying the Jets are in on this guy. I don't see a world where it doesn't happen, especially with the aspirations of this team wanting to win a Stanley Cup. The top in the league, Hellebuyck is looking like a madman. He's looking like prime Hasek out there. This is a team that needs to go out and get their 2C. I mean, Darius, looking at the first round pick from this year, would you be a little wary maybe attaching another, maybe second or third? I mean, like you said, the trade we seen in Tampa yesterday was 2 first round picks. What would be the maximum maybe you'd go on the pick wise if you're trading for him?
Well, we just saw with some retained salary, which I imagine would be part of this deal. Yanni Gourde went yesterday with Bjorkstrand for 2 first-round picks. So I'd imagine it's going to be a large return. It's going to be, again, one of their best prospects. It could be Barlow, who's over there in the Oshawa Generals. It could be a first-round pick, maybe 2 first-round picks. I actually do believe, though, that if he is willing to waive his no-trade clause, you have to make this trade if you're the Winnipeg Jets. Like you mentioned, Hellebuyck's having a great season. He's not getting any younger. You don't know what's going to happen with Nikolai Ehlers. You have a lot of contracts that need to be signed heading into next season too, so you don't know exactly what's going to happen with all of that. The team is playing well. They deserve to get an acquisition at the blue line, or not the blue line, excuse me, maybe at the blue line, but at this deadline, they do deserve to get an acquisition from Kevin Cheveldayoff. They deserve it. They played really well. They've won 10 games in a row multiple times this season, right? Like they've been playing really, really well. So I think that they are going to add. I think it's a question of just what the return is and how he fits into the lineup, or how the lineup looks with him fitting in there at the second line center position. But he adds so much. He's a very dynamic player that I think that the Jets have to make this trade. It would make them that much better, and they have aspirations of winning a Stanley Cup. Hellebuyck's not getting younger. The core is not getting younger. You have to do it now, and this is a perfect opportunity. And like you said too, like this is not NHL rumors account on Twitter or X tweeting this out. This is, Elliot Friedman. This is Darren Dreger. These are big names in the industry. And usually when there's smoke, there's fire. So I do think that this might get done. I don't know when it's going to get done, obviously before tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see if the Jets finally pull the trigger.
And I mean, looking at the lineup, the biggest thing is you need a number 2 center. This is a very deep lineup. You have everything you need: defensemen, wingers, centers. But I do think Brock Nelson fills out that second line center position so well for this team. He's someone that can come in, play the power play as well. But I'm going to kind of throw it quickly back to you, Darius. Looking at this, I know the top 6 right now has Namestnikov as the center. Do you think maybe someone in this top 6 might be moved out? I know Perfetti's name is a name that has been flying around, it seems, all season. But looking at this lineup, do you think the Jets might have to move on from one of these guys in the deal to acquire Brock and make it work?
I don't know if they have to. I think there's other teams right now, like when you look at Carolina and them potentially moving off of Rantanen, I think they want a player that can come in and make an impact immediately. I don't know if that's the case with the Islanders. I feel like they want to retool, maybe even rebuild a little bit, get some assets in terms of, younger players, draft picks. So I think the Jets might be okay in that regard. But when he does come in, he's going to take that second line center spot, and you would like Lowry to stay at the third line center spot. You just signed Namestnikov to a contract extension, so where does he fit in? Do you move him down to the fourth line? Maybe you put him on the wing. I don't know exactly what they're thinking, but I think that that's a good problem to have when you have depth like that, right? That's definitely a fine problem to have, because if you are going to go on a deep playoff run, injuries are going to happen. You do want players kind of waiting in the wings to come in and make an impact. So personally, I think it's going to be like draft picks, some prospects, because I think that's the way that the Islanders are going. I don't know if they necessarily need anyone who's going to make an impact right now, because they're not in the playoff mix. I think they're kind of waving the white flag at this point. We're done, right? So it's going to be very interesting. That's kind of how I see it, but you never know. They might be asking. The market is crazy this year. They might be asking for a Cole Perfetti or somebody who can make an impact now, but I just don't see that from the Islanders side.
And I mean, the biggest thing is the Jets do have cap space looking at. They do have 12 million in trade deadline cap space. But what's your guys' thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on, it seems every reporter coming out and saying that the Winnipeg Jets are in and willing to make a significant offer on a guy like Brock Nelson? What's your guys' thoughts on his fit? What would the package be, in your opinion, to bring Brock in? And are you excited if they do land him? Let us know down in the comments. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back in another episode, so you're not going to want to miss that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host Darius, and take care.